microphone is muted. Good afternoon. It seems like Akina is frozen. Good morning, wherever you are. We hope all is well with you. Today, we have a very interesting show for you. As the title indicated, it's about bridging the diaspora gap, right? How we invest in Liberia's future together. And a lot of this comes about connecting diaspora capital and expertise to national efforts, private sector efforts, and anything that can generate and impact economic development and growth. So today, we hope the network won't give us a hard time. I'm in the beloved Liberia, the country we really love, and it will be wonderful to have Akino. Hopefully, he can come on to provide his input. But hopefully today we have an exciting exchange with those who are listening. So we say greetings to you. Welcome to the show. We appreciate those who follow the show, those who give us their feedback on some of the ideas. But our preference would be for many of you who, later on call us or talk to us to come on and share your ideas. A lot of people want to hear from a diverse spectrum of thoughts. They don't just want one set of people repeating themselves and stuff like that. So, to the extent that you can call in and participate in the show at any point in time, we embrace that because I think it's important for multiplicity of voices to be heard on these different issues that we keep talking about. A lot of people, um, you know, really have serious thoughts. They got positive thoughts about where Liberia should be. A lot of energy around where we are today and how we can move forward. So, to the extent that more people can really participate in these discussions and be able to share their own views and what they think about how we're doing and what should happen is very critical to the development. And this whole diaspora issue is also another critical aspect. We know this government has been really pushing its, you know, position on the diaspora and where the diaspora should be and how they can participate in the economy. So it only makes sense for, you know, people who are potential partners for people in the diaspora, people who are doing business on the ground, as well as people who have the ability, those in government, to be able to facilitate, to be creative, to be able to do things along with people in the diaspora, to be able to push this diaspora investment. We know there's a gap. We know basically it's like nearly all salaries that the money we generate, the revenue we generate, that was majority goes to 85, 84, 85%. And the other 15%, yeah, there's some, public sector infrastructure projects that go on from that money. But for the most part, the domestic revenue is not being channeled into the private sector, into development and all of that. A lot of it is used for salaries and, overhead stuff, whether it is vehicles, equipment, media, entertainment, just a whole bunch of other activities that sometimes they don't really resonate with the people whose money the government is spending. So today we want to welcome you to this whole idea of the diaspora influence. Most of us know that the diaspora brings in about nearly $800 million a year now over the last two couple of years, I believe. And for a second, I thought that was not real, but I actually saw the data from the central bank, and it is $800 million. That's very significant. If we can harness that, and with the money as it is coming in, some people are doing good things. Some people are investing. Some people are doing business, but we have not built that critical mass yet. How our remittances can translate into large scale investment. There are so many opportunities that if we can bring that money into a critical mass, we can ask of our government, and even at some point demand of our government that we participate. I believe gold today is probably $125 a gram, I believe. So on the world market. So that's significant amount of money for the level of gold coming out of Liberia today that Liberians are not participating. There's diamonds there as well. There's other resources that any large accumulation of money Liberians can get into. Whether it's the simple import and export, we can get into that. There's opportunities there. Whether it's the technology sector, there's huge money going into the technology sector. And a lot of Liberian companies have not scaled to the level where we are comparative to, the international companies. We look at 3-year financials, they will say, oh, we don't have at least a minimum of $500,000 a year turnover. Look at, oh, you haven't done this project 3 times in different places. Look, oh, you don't have audited financials. So that there needs to be some effort on the part of government to ensure that the Liberian technology ecosystem is built to be able to, win some of these contracts, because most of the World Bank contracts are worldwide. They're open. I mean, I've been in some of these pre-proposal conferences, and their Indians are like more than 60 to 65% of the population. And, it's not what we want as a people to be, consistently, basically exporting our loans, right? Because a lot of this investment money or infrastructure development or digital transformation money is all loans. And if we can leverage some of those loans in a way that would build this system where some of the money stays in the country, everything is going out, and we as a people would just be stuck and left there. You know, um, this is a very interesting comment. We are afraid as a people to create opportunities for wealth building. I mean, I would love for you to come on, nominee, and elaborate on that. I think I know what you mean. But like I said, other people need to hear some of this stuff, If people want to call, 301-655-5984 is the number. And, you know, a lot of times, these comments sometimes they need to be fleshed out by people so people understand. Maybe they will just look at it afraid at just fear, but it could be some other things that combine to make it look like we are afraid as a people. Whether it is being able to collaborate, whether it is able to build confidence, because a lot of times people say trust. Well, I'm like, yeah, you can trust, but you got to verify. You got to really make sure that's what it is. But I typically say I'll have a degree of confidence in people, that you can deliver, that you can do what you say, and then we'll be able to work together with certain understanding. I don't have to be trust is very blind, so I don't usually gravitate towards that word. I leave it for God, but it's the other thing. So when we talk about this whole diaspora investment gap, we wonder why this significant amount of dollars that we contribute into our national economy, from the diaspora is not translating into investment. And there could be one of the reasons we're probably scared to create opportunities for wealth building. Some other people say there's a natural inbuilt resistance to other Liberians, exploding financially, doing very well. We tend to be crab in the buckets. Then there are just the reasons, other people gave, like we just don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the capacity. Our human resources are weak. But it's on us to develop that, because nobody else coming to develop it. Most times we see the knowledge transfer that it doesn't happen. A lot of times, most of the companies that will give work to that come from a foreign country, they don't give us that opportunity to really Akina is trying, but it seems like his network is giving him a hard time. Let's be patient and see whether it propagates into us seeing his face. But yeah, So those are some of the challenges we're facing,
Am I there?
let's
Am I
see.
in?
Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you are. Happy to
Good.
have you. How are you?
I'm great. I just had to reboot my computer. I didn't know that I had to
Okay,
reboot it and update it, but I'm back. How are it? Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
now your
In
now your
Radio Land, Facebook Land. How are you?
now your image is moving. You can do your little intro and let's get to the topic.
Well, thank you, everyone. Ava, once again, thank you. I see that you're still on the road. Thank you for being on the ground and doing everything that you can do, that you have been doing to keep the show going. I spoke to Rufus earlier. They're having internet issues and challenges at the station. So we're not on the transmitter today, but however, we are broadcasting live and streaming on Ava's platform, YouTube. Just linked it up on LinkedIn as well and everywhere else, but we just want everyone to get involved in the show today. Thank you so much. Welcome to Business Talk, as we always talk about, and business. And today, I think the topic is very, very appropriate. Very, very appropriate. Very, very appropriate topic. And it's I was listening to you while things were updating on my side, and those numbers from the diaspora. Remittances coming into the country, they're staggering numbers. In fact, they're greater, they're higher, they're bigger than our national budget. The government budget, the diaspora population, remittances into the country, they're greater than the national budget. So that accounts for something. I mean, that's a major stimulant. That's a major stimuli, if you want to put it that way, for the national economy. But the challenge is, as we've discussed today, what role can the diaspora play in terms of developing a developed country expertise, experience, know-how? How can we bring that back and fit ourselves into the national development plan, to the economic growth agenda? How can we get in? How can we truly get in, and how can we play a role? Is there a national growth and economic development plan? We need to understand that plan so that we can plug ourselves and find our way into that plan and be true participants in our economy, like you were saying earlier. It's one thing to get in a car, load it up with gasoline, put all your belongings and your family in there, and you just get on the road. You say, "Well, guys, let's just drive." There's got to be a destination. There's got to be a journey. There's got to be a plan. There's got to be a strategy. Where are we going? How are we getting there? Is our budget correct? Have we planned out our vacation? Those are the type of things that I think Liberians in the diaspora truly need to understand. And it's incumbent upon this leadership, the president, the vice president, and the administration to effectively and properly convey that vision and explain that vision and then educate the population, especially the diasporas, as to what that vision is and what role they can play in that vision. So I think, in my view, that's been short in coming. We have the arrest agenda. We have the letters in the agenda, the letters in the acronym arrest. But again, is it fully integrated? What role is the diaspora going to play in each of those letters in that arrest agenda? I think those are very critical things. Go ahead, Abba.
Yes. Thanks for setting that context as well. But now, from our perspective, let's understand where is the gap? Where do you think? Is it finance? Is it trust? Is it a lack of project pipelines? Is it policy? Is it the fact that our funding is informal? We don't really formalize how we are spending money in our country. So from your perspective, what is it? What do you think is leading this whole effort and making it so difficult for us to get to that level where we are really getting returns out of our investment? Some people are doing business, and that's wonderful. We really appreciate those who are investing in Liberia and trying to make a difference. there's also people who are investing and not getting the adequate return on their investment, right? It's just stagnant because their business concept or their business model is highly dependent on participation and facilitation from government. And that most times is slow or sometimes doesn't happen. So how do we bridge this gap? Where is the gap? So it's on your lap first, and then I can probably enhance and add to it.
Well, I would say from my standpoint, right, as a business development specialist in Mexico, Guinea, I work in various fields. And the most important thing, in my view, is there's got to be a vision. There's got to be a vision. People are motivated by visions. If you have a clear vision and you're able to effectively articulate, present, convey, explain, educate, enlighten the population, those who you want to follow you in the direction. I think that's so critical. It's one thing to talk about what you want to do, it's another thing to explain, to educate, to inform, and to enlighten the population about where it is you want to take them and what direction you want to take them, how you want to do it. People in the mass communication department, well, expertise or irrespective.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Are you sure?
Me?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think that's where the challenge lies. I think everyone who listening today, if you can please comment, has the government, has the leadership, has this administration effectively and properly and professionally convey, explain, and enlighten the population as to where they want to go, where they're taking them. If you don't effectively articulate that and present that, then how then do you expect people to buy into it? No one is going to invest into something they truly don't understand. If you want the diasporans to participate in this arrest agenda to develop this country, most importantly, not just develop it. As I was thinking about this topic over Thursday and Friday yesterday, the key aspect of development is transformation. Transformation. You need transformation at all levels. You're a project management specialist. You need transformation at every level.
No. Let me correct you quickly. I'm a project management professional, not a specialist or professional. There's a big difference.
I stand corrected. You are a project management professional. And when you are laying out a project, you sit with your stakeholders and you want them to effectively convey and to present to you what is it that you want me to manage from its infancy to completion. Okay. They must be able to effectively communicate that, articulate that, present that, and educate and inform you on that. Because any discrepancy or doubt or ambiguity in that process will affect the outcome. And that's where I think we as a country, we as a nation, we as a people, that's where we are. You want to gather people together, but then there's no vision. And then when you bring everybody together, then the question on the floor is now what? And all of a sudden, confusion and chaos sets in because there's not a who, there's not a what, there's not a when, there's not a why, there's not a why, and there's not a how. And these things have to be effectively communicated. So I think that's where, people have money to invest. People have expertise to bring to the table. And they don't know where to plug it in. Go ahead.
Yeah, the point you made is very salient because the government has made the overture to say, you'll come home, right? And like Nomine is saying, yeah, it's more than just coming home.
Coming home. That's exactly right.
you got to have a plan because some people, if they come, and they need to know there's some level of protection in terms of what they are going to be doing. So government has been great in saying, come home, but in terms of when you come home, where's the soft landing, right? Are you giving me land? Are you creating bankable projects and clear that this is the direction we are going in, and this is where you should put your money? What are the type of projects that you are creating?
I think Ava is having a problem there on his connection side. So I'll just continue talking about until he comes back. So I think that's where the challenge is, everyone. For those of you who are listening on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere else, I think that's where the challenge is, in my view. I think the administration of President Joseph Yuma Boakai, his ministers, and the vice president, and those who are close to him, I think there's a general need to effectively and properly communicate what the vision is. Where do you want it? What role do you want the diasporans to play? Where do you want them to plug in? Do you want them to play a role in the technology sector? Somebody there, Lumini Walker said, you'll need to fix the internet system too. I mean, it's not a laughing matter, Mr. Walker. I think the role that technology plays in developing and transforming our economy and our people in every aspect of the economy, from education to social welfare, agriculture, is important. I don't think it's a laughing matter. I think it's a very serious matter. But again, you bring up a very good point. That's a sector where you have a lot of Liberians in the diaspora, be it in the US, Europe, Asia, the Middle East, Canada. These people can place in a development agenda for technology and the role technology will play. But again, as Ava will say, is there a government set aside for these people to play a role in the overall scheme of the development plan? Every county needs technology infrastructure to connect schools and the county service centers. Ava, you know that. I mean, is there a set aside in the national budget for Liberian companies to play a role in building IT or ICT infrastructure in every county to connect that county back onto the national backbone? That's a question. The money can be placed in the budget, but is there going to be a government
I don't know
set
what it
aside
means.
exclusively for
Technical.
only Liberian companies? That's another issue. I mean, again, you come with road projects, civil projects, building projects that are government owned and government funded. Is there a set aside for diaspora Liberians, Liberian companies, exclusively only no foreign entity fronting for, no Liberian fronting for a foreign entity? Are Liberians going to play a very important and impactful role in getting those projects in those counties? Because again, every county needs infrastructure. Ms. Was this Shaya Saleh? Investing in Liberia remains a challenge, primarily because of the high risk profile of the country for most investors, especially venture capitalists. The expected return on investment, return ROI, must justify the level of risk, often upwards of 40% or more. Unfortunately, Liberia's market conditions, limited financial guarantees, and absence of insured investment instruments make it even harder to attract serious investors who need risk mitigation to justify such exposure. Again, Mr. I don't know whether that, I think Shaya, I don't know whether that's a lady or whether that's a gentleman.
That's
But
a
again,
man. That's a man. You see that Trump
okay,
man. You see Trump picture
okay,
behind.
Mr. Shaya. So the point is, as you know, there are levels of investments. Okay, so most Liberians in the diaspora will be coming at the lower level. Correct me if I'm right, Abba. Most Liberians who come to invest home, they're coming at the lower level, so they're not looking at risk mitigation, even though it is an issue for them.
No, how will you
But
say
they're
that? How can
no,
you say
no,
they're not
no,
looking at risk?
no, no, no. What I said was, when you look at what his point here is in the context of what he wrote in his comment, he's talking about. He said serious investors from the expat population. You get my point. What I'm saying is, when Liberian investors come home, they do consider
No,
risk
I don't think
mitigation as well.
I don't think
They He said especially venture capitalists.
especially, but he was also
Yeah,
saying
there you go.
the focus is
Mm-hmm.
our risk profile, and he's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't even have
Agreed.
ratings, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
in order for someone to take that high risk, they expect high
Mm-hmm.
rewards, and that's why he's saying upwards of 40%. Um, and we got some tough market conditions, no question. But there are huge
Mm-hmm.
opportunities here as well.
That's
And I'm
exactly
sure
right.
he's a
Yeah.
businessman. He can share some of those things. He can come on. We see them around here, but it's about packaging this thing to make it bankable and attractive and getting some assurances from government as to
Mm-hmm.
how your money has
Mm-hmm.
some level. The government can't guarantee you 100% you make profit, right? But government can guarantee you certain facilitation that will
That's
enable
exactly
you.
right.
Typical roadblocks that people face in terms of just the ease of starting business, or some of the unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles they go through in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
number of because every signature point, every approval point is a roadblock,
There's a
typically in the
roadblock.
investment space. So we have to work on that. We have to find out how we can help, the people who want to invest, the people who have ideas. And sometimes just to get an MOU signed with a government agency, you're not asking them for money. You're just saying, let's establish this. These are my competencies. These are my abilities. This is my network here. This is what I can do. So let's see how you can support my effort. And a lot of times it just like slow dragging in terms of getting some kind of signature or some kind of agreement with our government. So we got to work on how we can facilitate that.
And the reason I believe that is, Ava, the reason I believe that is because I don't think those who are sitting, again, let's go back to my point when you asked me that question. The administration, in my view, in my opinion, from where I stand, from where I sit, from where I'm looking, my perspective on it, right? They have failed in conveying, presenting, educating, and enlightening the diaspora on what this vision is. Nobody knows what the vision is. They're making this up as they go. And when you make things up as you go, then naturally, every time people get adjusted to you turning in one way, you change the goalpost. When they get adjusted to that way, you change the goalpost. And then so as a result, nobody wants to commit to something that has a nature of instability and inconsistency. You look at what Saleh is talking about here. There's got to be some consistency for an investor to put his money. Risk is accepted. I agree. Risk is accepted, but there's got to be some form of consistency. And like you rightly said, once you have the vision, then what you do is whether it's on infrastructure, road building. Why shouldn't there be a set aside for Liberian investors? Liberian investors, a set aside X
But
amount
the,
of millions
the,
of
the thing
dollars, whatever
is,
the case is.
to a large extent,
Mm-hmm.
let's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you want to say this, but the liberalization policy is there. Even if we work that policy, that hundreds of millions of dollars in those sectors that can be really accrued to Liberians. But unfortunately,
Anything new.
we got
Yeah.
we got expats in
Mm-hmm.
so many different levels of our economy where they're not supposed to be. And the
That's exactly
trending,
right.
I call on the Ministry of Labor. The Ministry of Labor should know the direction the economy is going and be able to pick up our people and say, these are the areas you need to build your skills in or need to do whatever you need to do. For example, we just signed, I believe, an agreement with an oil company, right? A
Mm-hmm.
company
Mm-hmm.
what's carved out for Liberians in that whole, process. If the
Mm-hmm.
people coming to start, drilling in the next 4 or 5 years, how many Liberians are prepared to actively participate for us to utilize the local content? How many Liberians will be prepared to provide the food on those ships, to provide the water on the drilling machine? You from Houston, you know the services that surround the oil drilling sector, right? So how are we preparing our people? Those are so many things that really should be laying the foundation, of attracting diaspora. There are a significant number, I believe, of Liberians in the oil sector on that end too. They can be an active part of, in the private sector of beefing it up. Are we recruiting, to find capacity? We have talked about a national
Mhm.
database of all Liberian professionals, right?
That's exactly
For the
right.
long
Yeah. Mhm.
we need to have a collaboration, enterprise level collaboration system that can be an ecosystem for Liberian professionals and people who want to tap into Liberian professional, whether it's government, whether it's private sector, whether it's the NGO. They can have subscription to that thing to be able to reach out to Liberian professionals. It's a mentoring tool. You can say whether you want to mentor or not mentor, but I show it to government and zero. There's
But
no commitment to do that. But just at this recently, the Minister of Foreign Affairs said, "Oh, we want a database with Liberian professionals." So, if you want it, Liberians have already built it. You
yeah,
know,
why
come,
reinvent the wheel? Why
come,
reinvent the wheel?
come and utilize it. If it's not at the level you want, like you said, in a project, you deal with the stakeholders, right? Look at
That's it.
what exists, and if you need to modify it, you need to change it in any way, we do that. But we are saying, get us involved, participate with us. The
Yeah.
capacity is among Liberians. Yes, we need some room to collaborate more effectively, to have all these kind of situations where all the Liberian geologists have a team, of ecosystem that they can operate from. All Liberian engineers have one. All Liberian, technology people, they have one. And then we'll come together to see the different pieces of the puzzle, how they come together for us to support this development. But if we cannot build that ecosystem of Liberian professionals where we can really engage each other, collaborate, bounce ideas, and sometimes we may disagree because there are multiple ways to implement some of these projects or do some of these things that we want to do that we call development. And there are multiple Liberians making an effort creating systems. Okay. And it's good to compete. That's what government should embrace. I get it, German people talking about MOU. Well, I will give you another MOU. Again, there's somebody suggesting Steams, right? And is it on the screen? Yeah, it is on the screen, right?
Yeah, it's on the
Because
screen. It's on. Yeah, yeah,
it's
somebody.
you know,
Dr. Abraham Detrans Kalon. He
right.
just
So
commented from
science,
LinkedIn. Yeah.
technology, engineering,
Gary
agriculture, right?
Orcha. Mhm.
Um, what the MAS for? I forgot stems. Science, technology, engineering. Why am I missing the M in stems? But the MS, Abraham, if you can help us with it, the trench. Now, begin there. You data, data. Help us with the MS for your team.
Thanks, no, but easy. How about the point you're making? The point you're making there is the point I've been saying. There's no clarity. There's too much ambiguity. You made mention of the Liberianization policy. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's no need to go back to the drawing board. There's no need to assemble experts. The Liberianization policy is clear. There's no ambiguity about it. There's no doubt about it. This is something that's on the books. All that is needed for that arts and sports.
The M is for math.
Yeah, math. Yeah. So the Liberianization policy is already on the
And,
book.
and
It's a
some
fixer.
people, for some people in STEAM, the A is for arts.
Mm.
For some people, the A is for agriculture. So it depends on where you're asking where his I6 teams is in terms of the S. So we got to find out from him. But
Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
and we have ideas. Many want. We got to find a way to upgrade it.
and like I said, Alva,
Go ahead.
the Liberianization policy is on the books.
I'm not a
This
problem.
is something. This is something that is already on the books. The challenge with that Liberianization policy that hinders the growth and economic transformation of the country is what? Is the E word, enforcement. There's no enforcement behind the Liberianization policy. So you have a lot of expats come into the country, okay, and they see, like we saw earlier this year, or last year when we had the show about the remittances into the country, $800 million. $800 million is no small money that pours into this country from border to border. It comes into the technology infrastructure through mobile money, through whatever it is. And when people are coming to Liberia, they're focused, laser focused on that $800 million. If somebody, you can do the math, 10% of $800 million is 80 million. I mean, that's $80 million, 10%. So these folks are coming in and they've got a plan, they've got a strategy, they've put together a team, they've got their subject matter experts, they've got a vision, and they know exactly what they want to do to get their piece, their portion, or their section of that $800 million. So the question now is, does this administration have a depth of understanding that such money is in the system, and that's money, like we said. I mean, that's diaspora sending that money in. But if the Liberianization policy can be enforced, and the set-asides are already there, like you said, the set-asides are already with the Liberianization policy. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. So if there's clarity of vision and effective articulation and presentation of this vision, and then providing some sense of understanding as to what role diasporan professionals can play.
And they gotta find wins. They need to find wins.
That's exactly right. Yes. The success, yes, that's exactly right.
People in the diaspora. This person is making a point. The transparency in our investment sector is not there. And yes, I disagree with him that you have to guarantee your return. No guarantee on investment, right? But at least to a large extent, when you look at your risk and you look at your potential to get returns, your potential should be higher, right? And then you go in there. So if it's a 60-40 thing, people will take that high risk and they will try to get in there and do something. And then they
need to do. That's exactly right.
The tracing of funding and the fact that people want bribes. Those are concerns that we know people over the years, people have expressed about our country. And that needs to change. We see this government trying to out the people who are, doing corrupt stuff, who are getting contracts in a corrupt way and all of that. But more needs to be done, unfortunately. Where we are now is not enough. We have to do more and we have to bridge that gap. And part of bridging that gap is being able to find answers to some of these things, right? And when these people come, what are they getting from the government? If I'm retiring 4 or 5 years, why can we build a program that, really caters to people who are coming? A specific program. The 1 or 2 agencies are building a diaspora desk. We already have a diaspora office in the mansion. We have one at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I don't know what the current state is now. But if you have that office, what is the strategic plan for that office? Let's just limit it to the end of this government term. From now to 2029, what is the strategic plan for diaspora engagement? Is it having a diaspora conference and then having, what do you call it, a return every December, the return, and then mid-year private diaspora conference? It has to be more substantive than that. It has to be very clear. Even the whole citizenship thing, I don't know if it's clear to people who got foreign spouses or diaspora who have U.S. citizens, how they can get back to being fully respected and embraced as a Liberian. So there's a lot of things that need to happen, and transparency like this person raised is one of the major.
Yeah, and the thing is this, Avad. I mean, it's great to have conferences. Conferences cost money. Conferences are not free. You're paying international airline tickets. People are flying across. You're paying for hotels. You're paying for Uber and Lyft and transportation. You're paying for security, so forth and so on. All of them, plus literature and everything else that goes into it. But the key again, the vision, the plan, the strategy, the effective articulation and presentation of the vision. You talked about the oil and gas sector. Last week I was in West Texas at the Permian Basin International Oil and Gas Show. You talk about services. The company I work for, that's what we provide. We don't turn wrenches or run wires or cable. We just provide the service of products, equipment to oil and gas producers, service companies across. It's a it's a $1 billion business. That's the services aspects. So in that production sharing agreement that was signed with Oranto, that came earlier and got the block, and then we all know that story, resold it to Chevron. What are the terms and conditions of that production sharing contract? What is the Liberianization clause or clauses going to be fully implemented and enforced in that? Oil and gas production offshore has a tremendous amount of services associated with it. You look at telecommunication services. The rig needs services in Liberian waters. They need data services on the rig. You need food and catering services. You need sanitary services. You need equipment supply services. I mean, you need workmanship on board. I mean, drilling takes time, but again, over that time, in that production sharing agreement, is Oranto going to have any skill set exchange between Liberians going to work for Oranto over some time and then bringing that know-how, that technology back to Liberian shores? Those are all aspects. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just asking the question. Because again, we're not looking at that. That's one of the challenges we have. We're not looking at these things holistically. We're not looking at it holistically to see how we in the diaspora can play a role. Because again, our leadership, the president, administration, I'm going to lay that at the feet of the president. The president has failed. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but he's failed in conveying, educating, informing, and presenting the vision.
We are having problem with our connection. It's been very tough today. I don't know whether everybody is doing something on the internet today or what.
It's on your side. My side is pretty good.
Okay, but then if you see me struggling,
I can see you. Going. And I think that's where the challenge lies. I mean, diasporans, again, if you think about it, Abba, the diasporans in the US, Canada, Europe, Asia, they live in developed economies. They live in very developed economies. They have amassed wealth, they've amassed education, they've amassed technical expertise, know-how, the ability to collaborate, they've built relationships in the different areas of specialization. So they know they have both, capital resources, financial resources, and also technical expertise and relationships that they can leverage back to doing any project in Liberia. The question now is, where do they plug in? When you go to somebody's house and your phone battery is low, what's the first thing you do with your charger? Hey man, where can I plug my phone? Am I right? Where can I plug my phone? So this is the question.
That anywhere I go is about plugging my
phone. The first thing you want to know, where's the outlet for me to plug in? And this is the question.
Sometimes I run the risk of forgetting my charger at people whom I don't come back.
That's exactly that's why the charger companies continue being billion-dollar companies, because they keep making more chargers. And this is the question that Liberians in the diaspora are asking. Where do I plug in? Where do I plug in? You got the Lofak, take for instance, you got the Grand Gila County Association in the Americas. Okay, that's a wealthy association. They probably have 5, 8, or 10, or 12, or 15,000 association members. Where can they plug into the Liberian economy? Because those are diasporans, be it in the US, Canada, Europe, Asia, wherever the case is, Australia. Where can they plug in? You've got the Riverside County, Association in the US. Where can they plug in? And there's no clarity.
With these county, district, and community associations, they quarrel too much and they divide themselves, over the listings. You live in a democratic space. For most of the Liberians in the diaspora, they're living in countries with very good, democratic systems. But whether it's leadership transition, whether it's respecting decisions, or whether it's just working together, we don't have to be friends to work together for a greater cause. We don't have to be buddies. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Once you have a different mindset or a different thinking pattern or a different position on certain issues, they feel it's hate. We have to elevate our intelligence quotient, especially our emotional intelligence, to understand that We can have, disparate thoughts. We can have totally divergent thoughts. But at the end of the day, there's a process for us to, come to what that final decision will be. And once we get to that final decision, let's all stand by that decision and support it. Not because Mr. Phillips originated an idea, I don't support the idea, then I don't want to be involved. I don't want to contribute when my contribution can be very meaningful to the success of the whole. So we have to start thinking that way. How can we collaborate more effectively? How can we even have arguments or disagreements, but still be able to stay focused on the mission? And that's where, when you say mission critical actions and decisions, that's where for a lot of
Yes.
institutions here, that's where it come in. You don't find the CEO or the CFO or the COO, all of them on the same page at all times. But when they reach to that mandate that this is the course we are pursuing, they are all supportive and they are moving in, that direction. And we have to start thinking like that. We have to build together, we have to think together, and then we work together. But a lot of times people want to be in silos, and it will take a lot of us changing our mindset for us to be able to do this. So it's on both sides, right? The government
It's
has
it is indeed on both sides. It is indeed on both sides. I mean, but what makes it easier, like you were saying earlier, right? Be it Liberia organization, diaspora organizations across the U.S. in different developed countries, whether it's Europe, Asia, Middle East, wherever the case is. This and I think from my experience, having participated in different Liberian organizations across the U.S., wherever I live, be it in Newark, New Jersey, or here in Houston, the challenge has always been, what is the project at hand? What is the project at hand? If the project is not properly defined and the vision is not defined, then people they become very challenged of being plugged into it. Again, I can only go back to my career expertise as a sales and business development professional, providing clarity in my sales and marketing plan and development plan for the year. The year is about to end. I have to put together my sales and business development plan for 2026. I
there
have
you
to set,
go.
look at my, key performance indexes. How did I perform in 2025? What my wins were, where my losses were, where I was challenged, where I had, issues, challenges, so forth and so forth, pitfalls. And then I have to recalibrate and adjust myself. I have to look at retaining certain accounts and certain business. Because before I grow, I have to retain what I currently have ending the year,
Yes,
bringing it into the new year.
yes.
I cannot talk about growth until I focus on retention. So I've got to have a retention plan and strategy to maintain and exist my existing business. Why? Because my competitors want my business. My competitors want my business. And then I want my competitors' business. So this is a fight. And investment capital is not free money. Everybody's pulling
No,
and
it's
pushing and
not.
fighting for
There's a
money.
cost of capital. There's a cost
That's
of
right.
capital.
Yeah. So we don't understand that, I mean, the Guineans are advertising their growth and national development plan and strategy. The Ivorians on our border, they're advertising theirs. The Sierra Leoneans are advertising theirs. So, they're advertising their resources, their offshore. I was just reading this morning that ENI, their oil producer out of Italy, just signed a big deal for geophysical surveys in Sierra Leone in several blocks. So West African oil
Really?
and gas is going, yes, it's going to be very, very interesting. Like Cote d'Ivoire just had their elections. His Excellency President Alassane Ouattara, ran and won again for extension for an additional, I think, 4 or 6 years, whatever the case is. I mean, they're oil and gas producer. They produce the natural gas that runs the turbines, put the power on the Trasco CLSG lines. I mean, everybody's is growing their economy, attracting their diasporas back into the country to capitalize on that expertise and that know-how and those relationships they have developed in those developed nations where they were. So that's the same thing with us. We need clarity, Mr. President. We need clarity. I mean, you talked about, when you were talking about how hard it is to get an MOU signed at a ministry. Why should that be a complicated issue? The ministry, I'm not asking you for money. I'm saying let's build a relationship here so I can provide a service that will enhance the ministry's operation at no expense to the ministry. at no expense. So again, does that person who you're asking to sign the MOU truly understand what it is you want him to sign? So if the knowledge is not there, the understanding is not there, all of a sudden the guy is confused, he's afraid, he's not certain, he's not confident, he's afraid. And then he say, you know what, the safest position is I'm not going to do it. Or he would just delay you, stall you, prolong everything. And, you know, if for most people, the best position is just to remain in the same position where they are. So diasporas, we are the future of our country. We are the ones who can bring the transformation that will ultimately lead to development and creating wealth. You look in the agriculture sector. The agriculture sector is a huge sector where diasporas can play a major role, be it cash crop, produce, or just poultry, for example. Poultry, I mean, we talked about that a couple of months ago. Poultry is, if you look at the dollars in imported chicken parts from Europe into Liberia, it's in the millions. It's in the millions of dollars. And this
are you talking about poultry? The guy who was there, he has a huge interest in poultry. If he was not busy, he could probably help to educate us on the market. But you know, the reality is risk again is a factor, right? Because I was talking about cost of capital. What is the domestic credit like? I mean, sometimes the risks are too extraordinary for people. You know, if you borrow at 20%, 70%, 20%. You know, welcome to the show, Manan Sumo. Isaac with a spoon. Welcome too.
Yeah. Okay. So Isaac is saying chicken is a $40 million input market. Where Isaac is that a $40 million input market in Liberia?
But that's small money. So he could be talking about Liberia. I cannot validate the amount, but he's talking about chicken. He's not talking about eggs, and that's what some people got to notice. The local market in Liberia is primarily eggs. We're not supplying actual chicken. Yes, people grow their chicken here and there, but you know, the actual chicken, we don't supply. It comes imported, and whether it's real chicken or not, some of us don't know because
that's exactly right. Yeah, and we talked about on that show, chicken in the Liberian diet is a delicacy because everybody cannot afford it. So if you start growing it domestically, so let's just say for the sake of argument, let's just say for the sake of argument for the show today. We're talking about the role diasporans can play. I mean, poultry investment, you know, not from the eggs perspective, but just from the bird side. $5,000 can get you a small poultry starting with maybe 300 to 400 birds. And if you do it right, you can get a recurring revenue every month, and you identify a market, put a good sales plan, use the media to advertise your poultry product, your chickens, and you can move it out and you can get a recurring and create jobs. Because if that $40 million is just on imported chicken pots, right? Wings, legs, whatever the case is, just think about what that can do for Liberians in the diaspora investing in poultry in the different counties. Because if you say imported chicken, okay, where is it being imported? It's not coming into Buchanan, it's coming into Monrovia. If it's coming into Monrovia, then you got to transport it into Banga, transport it into Kakata, transport it into Torota, all the different markets we may have to get the chicken pots. Okay. Then you got electricity issue to make the what? To make the ice to preserve it. You get my point. So again, that's why it's so important. Domestic poultry production in every county could be a major economic growth and transformation agenda for the present government through the Ministry of Agriculture. But again, what role can local Liberians play? Can the government say, hey, you know what, we're going to put in $1 million per county and make it a $20 million loan, and not loan, but a $20 million set aside to fund poultry production in every county in Liberia, and then attract the diasporas to invest in that market? Because $40 million in poultry pots coming in, you're not even factoring in the energy consumption aspect of it. Because you go to the Kakata market, the women who sell the chicken, there's got to be somebody who has a 20-foot or 40-foot container running on generator as a freezing compartment just to store their chickens every day so they doesn't spoil, so they can come back in the market. That guy's making money. He's not in the poultry business, but he's just providing cold storage capability for all the women who's selling fish and selling poultry parts. You get my point? So this is an integrated, as you know, go back to your ecosystem. It's an integrated ecosystem, and we in the diasporas need to understand this system and find a way to what? Plug into it. Plug into it. Plug into it. Isaac Witherspoon said, yes, in Liberia, and it is mainly eggs. Ava, you're right. Chicken parts like the feet and the wing. There, my point is. So it's not even the entire bird. It's not even the entire bird.
And that's the thing. And people got to know, the thing with chicken is, any two legs, right? Or any two wings, a whole chicken you're talking about. So you need a lot of chicken to supply that market. You want to domesticate this thing where we slaying chickens to put into the market. So, it's about really thinking through our economy.
That's exactly right.
That work. And it's not an easy thing. Nobody says it's easy, but the government has to take that responsibility to do that. They got to look at all the non-performing loans we have, and just Liberians too, though. We have to start to pay our debt. We can assume that you can just walk away from a bank obligation or even another individual who lend you money. I mean, personally, I got thousands of dollars that I lend to people that they don't even care whether they're gonna pay back or not. So
Abba, you just mentioned something so critical just now. You said something that is so powerful, that we need to critically analyze the ecosystem of our Liberian economy. Very critical point you just made. Because sometimes we take for granted, like I was just breaking down the poultry pot, right? Every marketplace, you go to Habel Market, you go to Cotton Tree Market, you go to Kakata Market, you go to Redland Market, you go to Douala Market, you go further out. Every marketplace. The interesting thing is, again, I keep saying this, you've got people who are coming from the outside. They're looking at this $800 million. And they're analyzing the ecosystem.
They won't carry it in. And you and them, nothing was said, they won't carry it in.
That's my point. They're looking at this $800 million. And they're analyzing the ecosystem of our economy. Okay? Let me give you a point. Look at Iron Gate. Look at Iron Gate. The Iron Gate community, not too far from Walakiri, Sweat Junction right there, right? Okay. That whole area has now developed. There's a market there. The women are selling chicken pots, fish, and everything else. But then think about what happens at 6, 7 o'clock at the end of the day. Most of these women don't have freezers and refrigerators at home to preserve their food. So the guys who are able to buy a 20-foot or 40-foot cold storage container or build one locally comes to that area, sets it up there, hooks up his generator or the LEC, and all of a sudden he's in business as the only cold storage guy to store all the women and food in the evening, and then he put buckets in there to make ice that they will have to buy the next day to put on chicken pots. I mean, just think about that. Just think about that. I mean, it's funny, but it's very strategic in the way that guy is thinking.
I love it when picking my picking I will lend you $1,000 so he can build a strong multimedia. Seriously, we can discuss it about $1,000 to build a strong multimedia digital enterprise. That's a story for another day. But we'll get this. But seriously, the point this young man is making, Isaac Witherspoon, right?
Okay.
I mean, to build a 2,500 birds poultry, whatever they call it in terms of where the birds live. But he can't start because the importing the feed is just too expensive. We've got to find a way to make the cost of production, the inputs into our domestic production effort. We got to find a way to make it reasonable. Government has to do that effort. Yes, the private sector, the people in business, they're supposed to do all of that. but government has to play a role into that facilitation. And it comes to looking like they just did. I haven't seen the report, right? But the stuff the vice president did in terms of looking at the prices that the people were complaining about, whether it was corn or rice or something, and they reduced some prices, that's a role that back in the day, the Ministry of Planning was probably looking at. But Ministry of Finance and Development Planning today, along with LISGIS, should be able to have some real good analytics for our government because they have the data. What kind of analysis are they running with this data in terms of the input, the export, the prices of different products that we are getting, and comparing it with the world market or so? What are the comparatives that we are using to try to drive our economy for the benefit of Liberians? I don't see that, and I just hope it's something that can happen because they are collecting data from where I hear they are collecting the data, and data, just having data, you got to turn it into knowledge. I mean, information, then knowledge, then be able to utilize that knowledge.
To utilize it, yes. I mean, and you see, the point this guy is making. Let's keep the statement up on here. He said, okay, we're talking about poultry. He said, okay, Alva, you are right. The major obstacle in Liberia for poultry industry is the feed. Get that now. This is a very, very analytical statement because, okay, Mr. Isaac Witherspoon is saying, look, I've looked at this, I've considered it, and I've analyzed it. But in my analysis of it, I found out that it's not the birds. It's not the civil works to build the chicken coop and everything else. It's not the human resource people to hire the people to work the tools and everything else. But guess what? It's the feed. Why? Because the birds need to be fed every day in order for them to grow. And when I factor in the cost of the feed locally in the market, which is all inputted with, and then you add what the guy buys the feed, then he has to transport it, then he has to pay the input duty on it. So the question now becomes, Ministry of Agriculture, let's look at the feed that the birds
need. Before you go, let's read this other comment. In Africa, it's from Alexander. I don't want to miss.
Jumped it up. My sister Alex.
In Africa,
hi, Alex, how are you?
We always put the cart before the horse. We want to go into
very good.
But what do chickens eat?
There you go.
Together
there
with
you
energy.
Go.
This reminds me of Mr. Dangote, who built a massive factory to process tomatoes. At the end of the day, there was no tomato in Nigeria. The factory worked at over 100. I mean, 1% of its production capacity.
Yes.
And that's atrocious for any business to just be
doing. You put the cart before the horse. You put the cart before the horse.
She's making a solid point.
Solid point.
Revisit that. Yes. Poultry is a huge economic opportunity, especially for local Liberians. But the foundational elements, the
electricity and the veterinary services. The veterinary services. Those are the three pillars.
Critical. And that's where the Ministry of Agriculture,
that's exactly right.
In working with our people in those sectors to say, this is what you need to do. This is where the extension services that should be provided, to our people in these areas have to be very strong.
And again, so like Alex so effectively and professionally laid out, we put the cart before the horse. So this is my point. You're talking about bringing the diaspora, that you want the diaspora to come and play a major role in the economy. So that's the cart you're putting before the horse. Where do they plug in? You haven't yet laid out the vision. You haven't yet articulated the vision. You yourself don't even understand what the vision is. But you want everybody to come. So you just want people to come and gather home and then do what? And start arguing and fussing among themselves. So on this poultry issue, the feed, what do the chickens eat? So the Ministry of Agriculture should analyze this and then start planting either rice feed or corn feed, and what other things go into that feed. And let's start growing it domestically. So there's a whole agriculture sector that grows, that plants 60% of the feed is maize. That's corn. There is no farmer in Liberia growing maize on commercial level. I mean maize, not corn. There's a difference. Okay, thank you for the education. Thank you for the education. I'm an engineer. I'm not an agriculture and an agronomist. Fine. So again, back to what Alex pointed. So you, Isaac, that's the key. So if you want to go into this, and this is where the challenge now becomes for the diasporan investor, right? So you're saying now the guy should go, if he wants to go and build a poultry farm, he needs to go and buy an additional 150 acres of land just to plant his maize, go to China, buy the machines to make his own feed on his farm so he can cut the cost of what? Feed production down, or cut down the cost of feed to feed his own birds. So now he's going into two businesses. He's going to have to plant his maize, process his maize, make his own feed to feed his own birds. That's the whole process. So again, we have all of this land across all of the counties in Liberia. Why don't we look at this strategically and get a project management professional, not a specialist now, a project management professional that can help in laying this entire process out, so we don't put the cart before the horse, and then we can be effective in building a domestic poultry sector for our economy, that we can cut down the importation of poultry pots or bird pots, and then grow our eggs and our bird market in every county. And what that will do for the health sector, let's look at the health sector now. People will be healthier because now they're eating more protein in their diet. Am I right, Alva? You tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay? People will become more healthier because they're eating more protein. As you know, I can't hear you. You're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. Yeah. So I mean,
I agree, much healthier. So
yeah, much healthier.
Yes, somebody discovering this presents another business opportunity for others, and that's the fact. But when you build ecosystems, you got to look at all the different pieces. You got to understand this. Oh, this is what we want to do. Okay, want to grow marijuana for CBD, or want to grow hemp or whatever.
Yeah.
But you look at what are the foundational things that need to lead us. That's why for us today in Liberia, I think national identification is so critical, because it's a foundational element of anything that has to do with development, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's taxes, whether it's land, whether it's anything that has to do with biometrics. The national identification is critical. It feeds everything else. And that's why we need all these things. We need to look at it in a holistic way, look at the foundational stuff, and don't be just focused on, that I just want to do this. No, let's build sectors. Let's build the value chain. Let's make sure that we can divide the roles and the opportunities that more Liberians can participate. So what product are we saying in Liberia today? We're saying we want to be the best in the production of this product. I really don't know. I mean, I know there's a focus on rice, for us to be able to produce rice, for the domestic market. But I'm saying for our export market, for us to get out there, we had where maybe it's gone in terms of AGOA, maybe it's gone, maybe they will react it in a different form. But America needs trade partners right now for certain products. Okay, it will look, just like I said, just look in these next 4 years. What product can we put on the world market from Liberia and say we will gain significant market share and be dominant? We've got to set targets and run after them as a country, as a people, and build the consensus around and the mindset. If we can't do these kind of things, then we can be successful. It's not a simple thing. I'm not saying it's simple. It takes work. But if we don't do the work, if we don't put our first step there, if we don't have the vision, we don't set the targets, we don't explain all the different players we need and what the roles are, and be able to monitor and evaluate the efficiency in those different roles, and to be able to find substitutes when they are not performing up to par, because it has to be a coherent and cohesive system. So all of these things are just critical to our economy for us to make these things happen, and we can do it. We got 5+ million people here. We got a lot of space in our environment. We are not densely populated. We got space. Okay, so we got
You,
opportunities to even attempt and try some things, some short-term things, and see what works for us and be able to push in that direction.
you know, let me just unpack all of what you just said, Abba. One, no, no, I mean,
You know how I think.
we that you see, that's why we make a great team. That's why we make a great team, because you know how I think and I know how you think. That's why we make a great team. I mean, if I unpack what you said, right? I always listen to key words that people say. You said something earlier, and I'll reinforce it. We need to we don't do critical thinking. We as Liberians, we're not critical thinkers as it relates to the ecosystem of our economy. Our economy is not just one entity. It has so many different parts. And then our economy is broken up into what? Based on every county. Every county has its own economy. Maryland County, River G, Grand G. So in order for us to get this thing moving, we've got to analyze what the needs are in every county's economy, because every county's economy presents what? A whole new set of opportunities. A whole new set of opportunities. There are opportunities in the poultry sector in every county.
And this is exactly what T4 White is saying along with you. One business opportunity presents a new one, another one.
A new one. That's it.
So it's about us thinking holistically.
Thinking holistically.
Being able to actively recruit. This is our national development plan. These are the things we're trying to do in these sectors. But these are the different pieces we need to make it an ecosystem.
That's exactly right. Yes. And then we staff to the planning, to the development agenda, because there's got to be one development agenda that will be broken up across every county. Every county will have to replicate that same development agenda and implement it at the county.
And that's what I was asking the other day, right? We got county development agendas. I don't know how much it paid, maybe $500,000, maybe $1 million to develop those agendas. And I read the one from River says. I mean, it was well done. At first, I was critical, right? Because I only saw a list of projects, and that's the problem. The substantive document that Dr. Toga McIntosh and his team created, it wasn't looked at. People just extracted a few projects that they could run with the county development fund and probably eat some money quickly, and not focus on the holistic aspect of really trying to say, look, these guys put time into this document. What are the different steps we need to take as a county to develop our county, to at least take one step forward, knowing that we are one of the most backward, if not the most backward county in the Republic of Liberia? What are these development goals that they have indicated? How can we achieve these? How can we utilize our people in the diaspora to work with us to build? It's like the county agenda doesn't exist. And that's a rich document. It would just be unfortunate if it just sits on the side for the next 3 years, like they did in 2008 when they did the first one, the CDA, and nothing came out in, no serious development, just one or two token projects that were never really completed. People took money, no accountability. Those things need to change if we must really develop our country, really. Go ahead.
Expanding on that fact, right? On that point, again, the county development agenda. In that county development agenda, what role are the various expat companies that are exploiting natural resources in that county? What role are they playing in that development agenda? Okay, what role are they playing? And then if you have an expat company exploiting natural resources, be it timber, be it gold, be it in the mining sector, whatever it is, what role, can the diasporans play in terms of creating local companies in the county that will create jobs to support that development agenda? You get my point, okay? So again, there has to be critical thinking. And you look at the Local Government Act. The Local Government Act is a very important part of the National Development Agenda because it localizes development. It localizes transformation. It localizes creating a leadership structure in every county at the administrative level to run the affairs of the county. But again, every county has a diaspora population abroad. What are the senators and the representatives from those counties? What bridges are they building to connect with the diasporans across the world to bring investment back to the county? In fact, I mean, I will argue that the most important investment team in every county are what? The two senators and the representatives from those counties. Those should be the key investment team that will bridge with the what? With the diasporans from that county. That's where it should start. I mean, if anybody disagrees with me, tell me. I mean, the two senators from every county, that's the law, right? Every county has two senators. So the senior and the junior senator come from the county, along with the representatives from the county should make up the investment team that would bridge this gap with the diasporans in the US, Canada, Europe, wherever the case is, to pour investment back into the county. They should take the lead. They should take the lead. They should take the lead on it because they are they're doing the people's business. They're representing the people in every district. And the two senators are representing the people in every county. So the two senators from Riverside County and the representatives should make up the investment team that will link with the Riverside County Association in the US, Canada, Europe, wherever the case is, to bridge this gap and say, hey guys, we need to develop the county. This is the county development agenda. We're going to go in the House, we're going to go in the Senate, and we're going to fight to bring money back to the county, so that you guys in the diaspora can invest in agriculture, create the small businesses, invest in telecommunications and ICT or whatever the case is. This is how this thing is supposed to work.
It's clear, right here. You know, the smart entrepreneurs during the California Gold Rush were the ones who sold the prospectors, the pickaxes, the shovels, the restaurants, the hotels, who provided services. They bulletproof themselves from the risk because you got limited risk at that level, right? Because you know that target market is getting those things because they want to do that work. We can apply that concept in many areas, and that's a fact, whether it's dairy, poultry farming, or agriculture, even the tourism area. For instance, someone mentioned chicken feed. That is an entrepreneurial opportunity by itself, building an ecosystem that supports entrepreneurs and also limits the risk in the process. I believe that's something we can do, but it has to be intentional. It has to be purposeful. There has to be some facilitation that, oh, this market is here. We got maybe Chinese, Indian, Lebanese over here trying to import those same things. But let's build this market for Liberians. Let's utilize our Liberianization policy, or let's even expand it to give Liberian more opportunity. The key is we need our money to stay here, to circulate a little bit more before it runs out of this country. And that would create churn and turnover in the economy when our money can go around a couple of times before it exits from here, whether through capital flight, just regular, or whether through criminal enterprises. But we know money is not staying in the country, and we need to change.
It's not staying there. So if you look, I'll expand on that fact. If you look at this $800 million of remittance that's coming into this country from the diaspora population abroad, right? So where's the development that is supposed to be, directly proportional to it? Because don't forget, this money is greater, it is larger, it is more than our national budget. This is $800 million. It is larger than our national budget. So, and this is money, this is person to person. You send that money in, the first two people who get a piece of that money is MTN and Orange. That's the first two people. Sendwave gets their portion. MoneyGram, Western Union get their portion. And then once it hits the guy's phone, he's got to cash it out. So Orange and MTN are strategically positioned because they've analyzed the ecosystem. They're getting their portion because now the young guy who's the mobile money agent, he gets his piece as well because he's the human ATM. So we need to analyze this. We Liberians in the diaspora, we need to come together. County organizations, alumni association of different schools. We need a tribal organization. This is how, again, this is how we're supposed to work. We need to take ownership of this. We need critical thinking and analysis. We can't just sit down and get together over goat soup and fufu and talk rebuilding the country. No, we need to sit, have critical analysis. Look, I mean, let me give you one other area of the economy that's growing, that will have long-term growth. The energy sector. Do you know how many light poles are needed in Liberia? How many light poles are needed now? They're running the line from Buchanan.
No, we thinking. I know they're doing something from Monrovia down the Robert Highway. We thinking, hopefully we can provide a service to do some geo-referencing for that stuff, that it can help with maintenance and being able to know what's going on. But it has to be something where our people want those services, especially the people who would pay for it, the LACs or government or public works or whoever, So yes, energy is high. And the LEC is making commitments. They really believe that this dry season will not have the energy problem we've been having. And we just hope, that's what happens, because we know the impact.
But what I'm getting at is, as the great as what's his name, Mohammed Sharif, as the MD and his team, as they put together the plan to their dry, what I call their dry season strategy, to make sure they have the capacity equal to, or maybe at least equal to what the rainy season capacity is, to meet the load demand, so that they don't have load shedding. The grid needs to expand. The grid needs to expand. So as the grid is expanding, there's a strategic need and requirement for what? For utility poles.
Yes.
Utility poles. So you can't run the wires on the ground. You need utility poles. So is LEC, is the Ministry of Public Works encouraging Liberian contractors to what? To build cement poles that LEC can buy to help to build the grid, to extend the grid. This is a major aspect of the economy, because if we understand and have an appreciation of the role that energy plays in our national development and economic transformation and job creation and investment attraction to this country, energy plays a role. But how will electricity extend? Okay, you're driving from EWA Junction to Robertsfield. The transmission lines are there. But guess what? Everything on the right and on the left-hand side of the road has to be fed. You need feeder lines going down those roads, and you need utility poles. You go, when you get to the Robertsfield, to the Unification Town substation, you need to feed, you need poles to go all the way out into Doodlestown and everywhere else. You get to Cottontree, you need feeder lines again. So again, this is a segment that I'm afraid that those who are coming from the outside will analyze our ecosystem of our economy. They will strategize, they would do critical thinking, and they would develop a plan and a strategy, and they would what? They would position themselves strategically in this sector, and LEC will have to buy the poles. LEC has to buy the poles, because the problem is, if you bring wooden poles, the agriculture sector is going to kill the poles. Why? Because every time we do slash and burn agriculture, guess what happened? The fire burned the LEC poles. You see, that's why the cement poles are very strategic.
We are getting some interesting information from people. I know we share this, and Manu will understand. You meant chicken consumption is critical to food security in Liberia. We understand that's what you meant. The Ministry of Health and Agriculture must work together to achieve food security. Currently, chicken consumption rate is largely sustained by inputs. A fact. As local production limited. Some reports stating that in 2023, Liberia imported 44 million worth of poultry meat. I can believe that easily. A significant portion of which is deep frozen chicken parts, true, the legs and the chicken feet, chicken wings. That's a major thing. But this other one is where I'm wondering if this is true. The highest remittances from Liberia go to Guinea. Next is Lebanon.
I won't be surprised.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised. I would not be surprised. Again, fine. So this is another point, another key. Liberia is a what? It's a transit point. It's a balance. In sales, we call it. At my company, we call it a dock bounce. So you bring in the product. By the time it hits the dock on the receiving side, it doesn't even get on the shelves. It just bounces at the dock, and then we have to ship it right back up because the demand is there. So people are using the country as a transit point to move money because they don't want the money being accounted on the other side. So again, that's a national security issue that has been disclosed, revealed here on the show today. But again, if you go back to his point, he made the comment you had up there. He put PO. What country is the source of all that chicken coming from? He only put PO. Go back to that
Yeah.
comment you put up there earlier.
I don't think, Mana, you can share the actual country where you say those things are coming from, but I don't think.
He only put PO. If you go to the comment before there.
Comment
before there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, PO. Yeah, right. Yeah, PO. So is it Portugal? Is it Poland? Which country is it? Which country is responsible for all of that importation? It's again, $44 million. $44 million. And that's just two wings and two legs. Or no, two wings and 2 feet. That's all we can afford. We can't afford the whole bird. Only 2 wings and 2 feet equal $44 million. Keyword, Alcana. This is how it is supposed to work. Liberia owned by the vision killers, one bribe for the people who work for you, stealing justice system, weak accountability zero. We are tired talking. Well, again,
we got to keep talking because some of these things can change. I mean, some people, Joseph Burger and some of his team are trying to put their foot down now. So we just hope that can continue. The justice system is weak. We don't get the desired results. It's just up and down. The lack of accountability is stark. People stay operating with impunity, and people don't want to account for what they're supposed to do in the right way. And yes, there is still corruption. There is still stealing, and until some serious examples can be made,
can be set. Yep. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Poland, he said Poland, Brazil, UK, and the USA. Exactly. So again, here it is. There it is. So the takeaway from what Manesmo is saying here is this: 2 wings, 2 feet from every bird. So the thighs, the drumsticks, the back, the neck, the breast, all of that stays behind because we can't afford it in our economy. So just think about that. 2 wings and 2 feet equaled $44 million. Look at what the cost is if we could grow the whole bird in country, create jobs, create wealth, and decentralize poultry to production in every county. We get to keep the entire bird. We get to keep the entire bird. And producing those birds at the county level creates even more jobs where? In the agricultural sector. Why? Because we got to plant the maize and process the maize to make the feed to feed the birds that the birds got to grow. So again, what we talk about today, where does the diaspora plug in? Do you plug in on the plant growing side to plant the maize and then buy your equipment from China to process the maize to create the feed, to feed the poultry market domestically? Because what this guy is saying is that there is a demand in country. People want to go into the poultry business, but the cost of the feed is hindering that segment of growth. So again, we got to think holistically. We've got to strategize. We need to do critical thinking of our agricultural ecosystem. We got to look at it from the county level. We got to segment it. And that's how the diasporas will be able to plug in. And then again, I don't think we should rest, we should wait, we should rely and depend on the president and the leadership presenting the vision. I think, in my view, Ava, correct me if I'm wrong, tell them, anybody who's commenting, watching the show can tell me if I'm wrong. The 2 senators from every county and the representatives of that county bear the ultimate responsibility because they were what? They represent the people in that county.
They are the leaders. They are the
They are
leaders.
the
And
leaders.
most of the
They're the
time,
leaders.
they inject themselves into the county development fund situation,
That's
the county
exactly right.
social
Yeah.
development fund,
Yeah.
and push this the superintendent to the side because they feel they
Yeah.
got more gravitas and more weight.
They got more gravitas and more weight.
It's
So
about how
they
this
should
whole
take the lead.
decentralization can go on,
Yeah.
how we can empower the local leadership to be able to generate their own income, whether it's from taxes in terms of a certain percentage of real estate taxes that they can, and that's why we say the cadastro is so important for this country because the real estate sector
But man,
can help this
how
country
about
grow.
stop there. That change that word called cadastro. Please break it down. Break
Okay,
it down.
so
Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason why you're getting so much pushback. Maybe it's because of that word you keep using.
so the identification of every piece of property from a geospatial perspective where it's tagged, you can just get coordinates and be able to know that place. And having it tied to every individual, especially to the social security number, what the national identification registry is supposed to produce. That's what we are calling the cadastro, that whole map of Liberia, that every space on Liberia is identified, the ownership defined, whether it's public land, whether it's government land, whether it's private land, whether it's corporate investment or so. Everything is defined, and we know basically what our tax base is. We know the structures that are on those, and we continuously update the geospatial information to provide the necessary intelligence that goes into, our tax system, that goes into our land administration system, that goes into the court system. All of those are critical, and those are things that if they happen, it will just boost our economy, the value of land, the importance of land, and the opportunities that exist in land. And you bought homes before, Aquino. You know the different stages in that ecosystem around land in the US. You got the person who will validate that your deed is your deed, right? The title
Yeah.
company. You got the person who actually will be there to lay on each of the forms that you need to sign. The realtor. So the sector is there, is built, is continual. Even when the sector depresses in hard economic times, it has the potential to rise again because
Because the data is there. The data, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
land
The data
never
is there.
dies. Now they want to say they got archive here. I wonder why you got archives. Maybe you should have a repository, but not archive. You're not archiving the land. I can always come and divide any piece of land.
Yeah.
I can always add another piece of land to another piece of land. So the opportunities are huge.
Let's do this, Ava. Let's open the phone line so I think everybody has heard a lot
I've been
from us.
asking the people to call, but
Yeah. So call in,
luckily we got
everyone. Call in. Yeah. Put the phone numbers up there. Put the phone numbers
luckily we
up
got
there.
some
Let
engaged,
people call in.
some very engaged people here who
People,
have been
yeah.
participating and sharing.
Yeah, I remember this comment. from Manes Smo. The last time we talked about the poultry sector, he said that on the previous show, I said to eat chicken is Christmas, Ramadan, New Year, and July 26 days. This limitation is driving the high protein deficiency rate in the country. Exactly. This speaks directly to the health segment, to the health sector. It speaks directly to it. And somebody else talked about, I think it was the same Manes Small. Somebody else talked about food security. I don't know what our leadership, our government defines as food security, because food security is growing your own food, being self-sufficient with your own food. You on side? Yeah. It's growing our own food. So poultry, which is a major that could create, that whole poultry industry has its own ecosystem. And if we could decentralize that in every county, just imagine what that could do to transform, to strengthen, to enable, the population, the young people, middle age and older people, how we could increase their protein intake at the county level that would minimize diseases, illnesses, and sicknesses. So, this thing, we got to think holistically and be very strategic and intentional and purposeful in developing a plan and a strategy, and then bringing the right people together. So the two senators from every county and the representatives from every county, They should be the leaders, the drivers of the diaspora connection back to their counties so that they can position the county organizations in the US, Canada, Europe, wherever it is, to pour money back into the counties. And I think that's the best way to go. Poultry is a major aspect, and then other aspects of the agriculture sector, be it rubber. Rubber is another area as well. The energy sector, making the light poles. Here it is, they're running the lines from Buchanan down to River Cessna. Once the power gets to every intersection, the power's got to go 3 or 4 ways. You need poles. So if you're having to
the power in River says, I can't wait to go there. They say the lines have run in River says. They were lit up. I saw a couple of pictures.
I agree, but and I'm not condemning, I'm not criticizing, I'm not castigating anyone. But the key thing is those poles on those pictures had to be brought all the way from Bangladesh. Those poles are made by Jungle Power, very, very great establishment, very great company, led by its CEO and managing director, Mr. Floyd Toma. But again, making poles in Buchanan is a sensible thing. That electrical contractors or civil contractors in Buchanan should be making more poles, because Buchanan needs 2, 3, or 500,000 utility poles to effectively distribute the power. To effectively distribute your power, hang your transformers, sub-distribution lines. Those are jobs that can be created locally at the local level. Don't let an expat company come and take that because Liberians are well able to do it. That should be part of the Liberianization strategy and policy. Those are jobs that LEC can say, look, we need poles. Certify as a LEC contractor, these are the specifications for the poles that we need. This is the height, this is the thickness, the depth, whatever the case is, and we need these poles made. Test the poles, certify the poles, and create jobs in Buchanan. And then that line runs from Buchanan down to Riverset, and then from Riverset ultimately probably down to Sino. And you need thousands of poles, and that's a whole segment again. Critical thinking of the economy, of the ecosystem, is so strategic. The energy sector, the poultry sector, the rubber sector, the education sector, the health sector, the telecommunication, ICT sector. We need critical analysis of the ecosystem. So the telephone lines are up there. Pick up the phone and call, and we'll get you on the show. Pick up the phone and call, we'll get you on the show. Let's move from chatting online to talking. So raise your voice. Don't be a silent listener today. Let's talk about this thing. The way it's supposed to work is we in the diaspora, we're supposed to plug in. We're supposed to plug in. We need to bring critical thinking to analyzing the different segments of our economy. We cannot just surrender $800 million to people coming from the outside and building and playing us in the way that they do. Nothing against the folks, but we need to play a leading role. We need to strategize. We're living, we're working, we're educated in one of the most developed nations in the world, advanced technology. So why can't we just transplant this? We have associations. Why can't we sit? Why can't we analyze? And why can't we strategize, pool our resources, and make strategic investments in a country like Liberia that has $800 million of remittance? That's, services people need every day. Services that people need every day. Put Mane's small comment up there. The demand for poultry in Liberia, as in other West African countries, is expanding due to the factors like population growth, very important. Urbanization, very important, and rising income. That's exactly right. When a man starts making more money, he wants to eat better. And that's going to create a demand on the system. And now the Ministry of...
That stuff is serious.
It's serious, yeah.
I have seen them move from just cow skin to cow skin and people.
Cow skin and booty.
To booty. And now chicken in the pot, okay? So when they go to the pot boiling, they're not joking, it's serious.
The pot boiling, yeah. Now the Ministry of Internal Affairs has the Deputy Minister for Urban Development. So health, agriculture, and internal affairs can collaborate. Food security is critical to national development. Very important point, Smoke. Your point is spot on. But the thing is, are we thinking in an integrated way? That's the question. Are we thinking in an integrated way, or I've used the word that they use in project management as again, this man is not a project management specialist. He's a project management professional. He corrected me, so let me give him his due today. As they say in project management, don't be a silo. And this silo, individual, abstract, all by itself thinking has us where we are. We need to integrate. We need to communicate. We need to come together. Don't be offended. Don't be threatened. Don't be insecure about somebody bringing more knowledge, more understanding. Be excited. Be a dry sponge waiting and anticipating to soak up knowledge and understanding so that we can move this thing forward. So we can move this thing for, why someone is talking about it is so critical. Because, if you're saying that people in Liberia are moving up the ladder, then that means their diets are also going to move up the ladder. That means the quality of life is going to move up the ladder. And most Liberians now have smart TVs in their home. Why? Because the cost of data. People are streaming more.
Once things become commodity too, then it's easier. Even
that's exactly
solar panels used to be an expensive thing. Now they are so much cheaper, and they stay expensive for most Liberians. But eventually, they will get to that point.
They will get to that point.
It's being produced in Africa, or the cost of it is just so much cheaper. The stuff that China is doing with solar is so amazing. It's impossible. But anyway, I think we've really got to the end of this. So let's try to get some closing words in. I think
everybody is afraid to talk. I don't know what. But the engagement today was very, very good. Sumo.
No. Very, very critical points people made and provided some solid input. We really appreciate those who come on here and share the knowledge. More people need to do that. More people need to also vocalize it, because most times people don't necessarily read, but people can listen. And when we keep sharing this information and trying to build that entrepreneurial mindset that we need to have in Liberia for us to own our economy, we always talk about it, but if we don't get into this thing, we're not own it. So we have to make the effort. And we look, in some instances, we even got to do some radical stuff, like build a system free for the government. And you want to get stuff out to foreign people, you're making a requirement high. Okay, here's a free system. You look at this system and tell us whether it's not adequate enough for you guys to use. And that's what, when it comes to the way they love gossiping.
My chicken wing cannot be compromised.
We cannot be compromised. Yeah, they may stay your principle.
My focus is we reduce the importation of the 2 wings and the 2 feet, making the 4 pieces, and we focus on the whole bird. Producing the whole bird in Liberia, which will, which will create jobs and transform the economy. That's my focus. But again, great show today. The interaction was great, or the interaction is great. No one called in, but just, the comments and people, thinking strategically along the same line that we're thinking strategically is very, very important. I think Liberians are thinking. I think we need to now move from just sitting on the sidelines, and we need to get together. My biggest advice to all the Liberian,
maybe somebody calling. Let's see. Hello.
Hello, this is Isaac also.
Oh, Isaac, how are you?
Yeah.
My own namesake.
Fine. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so provide input. We are listening.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for the show. I just came back from Liberia just a week ago. I went to do some investigation. There are so many things in the country that the government or the diaspora, one way or the other, have to get involved. We were talking about the chicken feed issue and some of the issues around the industry. That is not only all. Do you know that in Liberia, there's no commercial hatchery in the whole country? So if you want to get into the poultry business, you either have to get your, what is called the DOC, the DOG. Mm-hmm. You got to get it from Ivory Coast, Ghana, or the big players are getting it from the Netherlands.
Isaac, are you in the portrait chat room? Are you a member of the portrait chat room?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I'm a member of the portrait chat.
All
Yes.
right.
So, like in the whole country, we don't even have a hash rate. You know? So that alone, if the diaspora, like someone was talking about, like being the lesser part of the rate, if the diaspora can just establish a hash rate in Liberia of just, let's say, 50,000 birds per day, for example, that is nothing. Because from the Netherlands, the least that they can supply is 10,000 birds. You will make money. And we are getting one bird for around $1 from the Netherlands. From Ivory Coast, you get it like for $1.50, like that. You know. So there are like so many things. But one of the things I observed when I was in the country, it seems like the government is not really interested in finding tangible solution. They want to give banish instead of like pushing the wound. What do I mean by this? If you come up with a proposal that will really like be impactful and provide jobs and even have a long-term benefit, people who are in power, they are not interested in it. Let's look at the issue of growing maize for animal feed. The major problem that most of the farmers have is that they don't have the machinery. So if you really want to grow maize on a commercial level, we need to move from like acres to even hectares. And a common farmer in Liberia, he has no machinery. He do not even have like a corn planter. So instead of the entity that are involved making those at least available to those who have the mind and have the skill to do it, they are not interested in that. They are giving like colaxes and watering can. What can you do with colaxes and watering can when we're talking about supplying maize to farmers? And you said you are in the portrait shadow. There are like now some middle-sized poultry farmer in Liberia, but they are facing this problem, you know? So we have to mitigate that.
Yes, definitely. And again, it will take some discussion. I know they just had elections in the portrait sector. They got a new chairman and some other people. So hopefully the momentum will be built as we talk about these things, and people come like you, share your experience in the sector, and other people share it, and we know the level of consumption. Every little kobo shop, they got one little piece of chicken for a chicken wing in their food. So we know it's being, people are selling it, people are buying it. So how we can become an active part of this, and how we can do some domestic production of this much needed input into our cooking, it will make a difference. Well, thank you for calling, Isaac. I would like your number.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you so much.
All right.
But Isaac, that caller brought in a very important point, and it confirms what we've been talking about today. There's no strategic thinking. You have people in high positions. I don't want to condemn, criticize, or castigate anyone, but again, we need to think big. When you're giving people cutlasses and water cans and hoes and diggers, that means those actions are only a confirmation of the representation of your thoughts and your ideas as to how you're looking at this whole thing. I can't hear you, Abba. You're on mute. Yeah. So we're not, those who are the decision makers, they're not thinking big. And until we think big, we think holistically, then we would not be able to get there. There's you remember we had that show with that young lady called Kula a couple of months ago? Yeah, before my wife passed away, right? So Kula is now, she's in Kakata, that Upper Magibi area there. Very, very young, hardworking young woman. She was on the show. She's in the portrait sector. I think she's in that portrait chat room as well. She provides veterinary services. As of, believe I talked to her yesterday. Yesterday, we had a long, in-depth conversation. She has a small hatchery now. Yes. in
That's good.
Kakata.
Wonderful.
Yes, and
We got a call on the line though. Let's get the call.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, let bring the call
Yeah,
on.
Joe, just introduce yourself and share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, this Joe Monu.
Hi, Joe.
I run a small business. I said, good show. I really enjoy you guys here in Henderson, Nevada. Look, here's a food for thought. The U.S. government realized generations ago that the private sector is the engine of growth and development. So they provided incentives and in some cases direct investments in what we now know as the Fortune 500 companies, you know, the Apples, the Cisco systems,
right.
And those sort of companies.
Coca-Cola,
the strategy was to ensure that these companies were successful, and their success will morph into government success, through an increased tax base. I believe this is a concept for the government of Liberia to adopt. Identify Liberian companies that can be scaled, and invest in those companies. Go to the banks
and
we are the guarantors for these companies in terms of bank rules.
And that's a great concept too, and that's what we're trying to do with the Liberia Diaspora Equity Fund, right? Identify those scalable companies or those that just right below that level that can, with a few 1 or 2 years of investment, be able to really scale up. But if government can create that platform, that opportunity for Liberian companies, that would be even better. But that's one of the key targets of the equity fund.
Another little sidebar, or both of you know the situation with Oranto. Oranto is back to the scene of the crime, and the Liberian government is, giving them some oil blocks again. How can we stop this?
Well, that's for another show. Because when I look back,
that's for another show.
Well, there are some simple things that the government can do. Senegal did it. Uganda did it. Equatorial Guinea did it. They all kicked Oranto out. We can do a simple thing like asking Oranto to open their books. For us to audit their books. That's one simple strategy the Liberian government can do, because these guys are just coming to flip blocks. There's nowhere that those guys have gone from, concept to actually drilling, from bidding to drilling. Nowhere. They don't have that history.
Right. And that's the thing. We don't vet. Our due diligence is poor with these things. And some of them, because people are compromised who are in those positions, like the last time with this guy who bought the All Blacks and became now supposedly a billionaire or millionaire.
Yeah, Prince Easy.
Yes.
Yeah. He flipped it for the gold to him was some reports said 200 million, some say 150 million. But imagine if his Liberian enablers, if somebody got 10% of that.
So somebody made nearly 50 million.
Exactly.
Because somebody can charge 30%. I mean, some people are brutal, but anyway,
I tell you,
we fought that. We're in the what they call it, CCL chat room at the time, and some of those things are going on. We're fighting them, but unfortunately, nothing happened. So, folks have been in this struggle for a long time, but until the government can change in terms of the gatekeepers being gatekeepers for the people rather than their own interest, we'll always have these kind of challenges of bad concessions and selling our natural resources cheap, the pennies on the dollar. Yeah.
I know it's got to be a dramatic shift in mindset, my man. Yes. A paradigm shift. Anyway, good show, fella.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Joe, thank you so much for calling on the show. His point is well taken. But again, you mentioned about the diaspora investment fund, and I will tie back what you said earlier. Small wins. I told Dwalu, pick a project, invest what you currently have, in that.
That's my position too.
Get a win. People will always support a
winner. And that's why we're asking for government. Right? Show wins for your diaspora project.
Me the
Liberia Diaspora Equity Fund need to show wins.
You remember that show with Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, where one was the athlete and the other guy was the agent, right? What was the dance he was doing in the office? He kept telling Tom Cruise, what? Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the win. Show me the win. Take what you've got, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. Look at the portrait sector. Sit down, analyze the ecosystem. Find the individuals who can do this. Find those who are working on the ground and make it happen. Make the investment, turn the win, and advertise, publicize that win, and make it happen. People will join you because now you succeeded. But thank you so much to everyone who joined the show today. Thank you so much. It was a very, very interactive show. The two people who called in, Moyu, thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for your comments and everyone who participated today. We had a great and outstanding show. The role of the diaspora in Liberia's economic growth, transformation, job creation, and wealth creation. Very important show. Ava, enjoy your trip. Be safe out there. We didn't broadcast today on Love FM because they have some technical difficulties and challenges with their internet connection. We will probably be back next week. But notwithstanding, let's continue as Liberians to actively and positively engage in our economic growth and development. We in the diaspora, we represent the future for transformation and economic growth. There's no other way than to do it from the private investment side, as Mr. Moyu just said. We Liberians we need to come together. Let's connect. Let's have discussions around these opportunities, and let's not depend wholly and solely on government. We should be the engines of our economy, the private sector. We can start small and we can grow, we can become big. An avalanche starts with one pebble, and next thing you know is a major mudslide. So let's connect, let's reach out, let's have dialogue, let's strategize, let's become subject matter experts in our specific areas around a goal and an objective, and let's get it home to win. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a great and outstanding day. Be safe out there. Love you guys so much. Ava, thank you, man.
Thank you. The man has spoken. Goodbye, everybody.
Don't forget, I know how you think, and you know how
I can call you for all the things together again.
Love you, brother. Thank you so much, man. Have a great day. Be safe out there.
Wonderful. You too. Bye-bye.